Welcome back to Totally Unexpected. I'm your host, Chavie Bruk, and I am very excited to introduce my daughter, Shoshana, for this upcoming episode. Now, this is really special for so many reasons, but for Shoshana to have a chance to tell her story from her perspective and define the narrative around her story, I think is really remarkable. And I think it's the first time she's able to do this on this scale, on this kind of platform. And it was a really special experience and a really deep and vulnerable conversation. And I also felt really honored to be able to facilitate that and be a part of it. And you'll see that this interview is a conversation. Shoshana shares so much of her story and the things that she's been through. And I think it's also really important to know that there's a lot of sensitive content in this episode. There's a lot of hard topics that we discussed, self-harm, abuse, and so forth. So I just want to give you the heads up to listen in an environment and a place that would be appropriate for this kind of conversation, and also to be in a place that you can handle this kind of conversation. And if any of these topics are sensitive to you, just know that we cover a lot of subjects that could be hard to hear. But it's a really beautiful conversation. And like, as I was saying, Shoshana has an opportunity to share her story, and it turns into this conversation of her experience and my experience. And it was actually a really beautiful opportunity for us together to do this. And you guys are just lucky that you get to listen in. It really was like a really beautiful thing that we got to do. And I feel so honored to have been able to do it. And we're sharing it with you. So I really hope that it lands for you. You learn something from it. It impacts you in a positive way. And I look forward for you to hear it. Let me know what you think. Today's episode is dedicated by dear family friends who are dedicating it in honor of our children, Shoshana, Chaya, Zizi, Meni, and Chanalea. Pretty apropos for this episode. And in recognition of a new amazing book called Letters for Life, Guidance for Emotional Wellness from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which brings to life the Rebbe's incredible perspective on emotional health. Levi Shmutskin did a masterful job in taking us on his own journey to emotional well-being through the teachings, interactions, letters, and ideas of the Rebbe. You guys know one of my greatest passions is emotional health and the importance of nurturing open, vulnerable, and practical conversations about our feelings. This new book, which I actually gifted to all the participants in my 40th birthday celebration in September, opened my eyes to the unique Torah depth associated with being emotionally healthy. You can get it on Amazon or at your favorite bookstore. Again, it's called Letters for Life, and it will do wonders for your emotional health and equilibrium. Get your copy today. If you are interested in sponsoring an episode, please reach out to me either on my Instagram or my email, chaviebrook@gmail.com. That would be awesome. I can't believe we're doing this. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. This is like a big deal. It's really cool that we can be in a place to do this now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I think I was not even ready to do something like this a year ago. Well, definitely not a year ago.
Yeah. Are you nervous?
A little bit, but I think there's so much assumptions about me. And not that it's my job to clear the air, but I also think, like, there's a lot of vulnerable parts to my story that other people could have, like, relate to.
Yes, 100%. First of all, I'm a little nervous too. So it's like it's this is a big deal. But I agree with what you said. There are parts to your story that people know, and there's so many parts to your story that people don't know, right? And I think everyone has a curiosity about your life because it's so unique and because it's not a secret, right? That you joined our family at 12 and of course people have assumptions or they think they know your story or they never heard your story from your perspective. And I think now you're 20 years old. Of course, your story will evolve and maybe in a year or two we'll do it again to update everybody, you know? But I think it's finally like really exciting to be able to share from your perspective and some parts of your story that was never my place to share. And, you know, we're going to hear, of course, not everything because some things are private, right? We live in a world where we have to make sure that there are things that we hold sacred and not everyone has to know everything. And then there are some things that you can share that is your prerogative to share, but not mine, right? So I think we're going to start with your childhood. You know, that's something that nobody knows about. People know a little bit about you from when you entered our lives at 12 years old.
Mhm.
So I'm sure it would be really interesting and fascinating to hear, like, okay, what was your childhood like? What was your life like before you joined our family?
So I guess to go back is I was born in California and my father is English. He's from England. He's also a struggling alcoholic. And my mother was a very strong person, but she struggled very much with mental health.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, when I was 5 years old, my father was a horse shoer and he left to go about 2 hours away. And I was home alone with my mom. And I remember she was on the phone before it all happened. And I was in the living room watching Scooby Doo. And then I fell asleep. And then I wake up to like a really, really loud noise. And I think instinctively I knew what happened. So I checked the whole house except her room for probably 45 minutes, is my guess, outside.
Wow.
Honey, where are you? I remember I went and had more of my Scooby snacks because I was eating Scooby snacks while watching Scooby Doo. And then it finally hit me like, okay, let's go to her room. And so, for context, into my parents' room, they used to have like, it was kind of like a child gate. You know what I'm talking about?
Hmm.
Child gate wasn't up, and it's usually always up. And the door was ajar, and I walked in, and there was my mom. She had taken her life, and I guess by God's grace, a couple days before, my dad had shown me on her phone if you dial 4 and the green button, it automatically calls him. So I went to go find her phone, and it was on top of the TV, which means she, obviously preemptively planned this. And I called my dad, and from what my dad recalls is I called him, and all I said was, "Mommy's dead." And he was like, "Whoa, whoa, this isn't funny, Courtney." Then, it kinda just all spiraled from there. The police came. So as, like, a side note, so we had a family friend who was with the, Ventura Sheriff's County,
Mm.
and his wife was also a dispatcher. And so she was the one that received the call, and she knew
Oh,
I didn't find
wow.
this until later in life, but I knew about the whole situation is she had called her husband, who was actually off duty that day, who was a detective with the sheriff's county. And so he came in on his day off, and he was the one that brought me like a teddy bear and like sat me at the like on the side talking to me. And that is like part of like a whole reason of like why I've always been like interested in law enforcement as a side note.
Yes.
Like I remember the other police officers just like not even acknowledging me. Like
Wow.
I just found my mother dead and they're just like, not even checking in on like the 5-year-old girl.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that happened. And then for a year I went,
Okay.
huh?
Wait, let's just pause for a second. So probably like you mentioned that you were like searching the house for 45 minutes, like and avoided your mom's room, right? Like you probably like subconscious was like, I don't think I should go in there, you know? Oh my gosh. I mean, it's unfathomable to experience something like that. I remember you telling me, I think till correct me if I'm wrong, but till this day, like you can't really watch Scooby Doo.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't watch Scooby Doo. It is the most triggering thing because it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like brings back all those was happening when you were watching that. And I think that's crazy how the brain works. Like it tries to protect us and save us from like, oh no, we can't go there. Like that's not safe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So continue.
So then for a year, I went to go live with my dad's ex-wife. Between the two of them, they had my half sister.
Hmm.
And so I lived with them for a year. That year is kind of very blacked. Like it's not very solid memories. And then I remember it was the middle of the night and my dad comes and he just takes me away in the middle of the night. And he takes me to Cody, Wyoming, where
Oh
he
my gosh.
got into a relationship with a woman who was 20 years older than him. She had a ranch. She was from Germany. And I was really nervous because on the car ride there, he was talking about how she was going to be my new mom. And I was like, no,
Mm,
nobody's going to be my new mom.
no. Wow.
And I guess like just like a fast forward snapshot is what happened in those years is, that woman I think had a different way of approaching parenting and it was very physically abusive. There was a time when like CPS got involved. There was a time when in 5th grade I had went to go live with a family in Florida and I remember I was at a doctor's appointment and they asked me if anyone's ever hit you and I was like, yeah, like of course.
You didn't think that anything was wrong with that. You thought that was normal.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh," and then the police got involved and she denied it all. My father denied it all. So, that was great. And then I went back and I lived in Cody, and then I guess fast forward to when I was 12, I started becoming interested in religion. My father is a hardcore atheist, and my grandma, who is I guess essentially her stepmother to my mom, is Jewish, and I started asking her questions, and then I guess like fastly over time it unfolded that I went to go with you guys for I think it was a week, 2 weeks.
2 weeks for like summer camp.
2 weeks as like a junior
Yeah.
counselor, even though
Junior counselor.
about
I
Judaism.
love how you're doing quotation marks because you're like, I don't know what that means, but I was
Yeah.
just there.
And then I really connected with you. I remember that. Abba, not so much, but I think that's just like, how Abba is. I remember the first time I met him, he was in the kitchen like cutting zucchini or something, and he was like, "Hello," and like just so like in my face. Hi.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And then I went back to Cody, and that day was just horrible. My dad kind of had an episode, a very public episode, and I just was like, I can't do this anymore. And I guess to backtrack as well, things got so bad with my dad's girlfriend, woman lady, that she kicked us out of the house and made us live in a trailer in the back of the property. And this trailer was probably, I don't even know, maybe maximum 20 feet long. Like it was tiny.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Um,
wow.
I just knew one, I didn't want to, be trailer trash. Like everyone at school knew that I lived in a trailer and I like lived off of school meals and I just was kind of over it. So I called my grandma and I guess just like very fastly again, it was like, okay, well, you can go live with the Brooks. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
So yeah, then there's that.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's pause here for a second. So you're joining the family, right? You're 12 years old. Your life at home is pretty precarious, right? Like from what I remember, like basic needs weren't being met. Like I remember you had to do your own laundry and you had to like make sure that you had food and like all of that was on you. Am I right about that?
Yeah. And clothes, a lot of my clothes like didn't really fit me that well anymore.
Yeah. I remember when you came for camp, we went shopping
Yes.
and we outfitted you for school and we sent you back, back to Wyoming to kind of just be ready for school. But it became obvious, I think, once you removed yourself from that situation and you had a little bit of a taste of what a functional family could look like, it was probably really hard to go back to that environment. Is that kind of what it felt
Yeah.
like?
I think that was another thing was, like, seeing, like, a normal family and then, like, wow, my life is really what my life is, you know?
Yeah, like I don't want this anymore. Or you're maybe like also recognizing and realizing like it doesn't not everybody's life is that way or it doesn't have to be that way. And so I think that's kind of what got the wheels turning, you calling your grandma calling us and being like, what do we do? And then I think it was like 2 weeks later, you were back.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I feel like it was
You
like
guys had a
fast like that.
trip somewhere.
Yes. We were on a road trip in Minneapolis. We were driving to and from Minneapolis. And I remember like as soon as we got back, you were going to come.
Yeah.
So you're joining the family. How how was that from your perspective? Like what was the feels? Like
I think I was very disassociated.
that
I
makes sense.
remember my dad had driven me up to Bozeman, and we went to
Hmm.
the office, and he had to sign
The
papers.
lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember he was crying, and I just, like, in my head, I was like, "Can you hurry this up? Like, I wanna get out of here," which
Mm,
is kind of heartless, but, at that point, I was like,
you were done.
I felt embarrassed to be associated with that other lifestyle in a sense,
Mm,
and I also just didn't wanna be associated with all that, like, hurt and trauma.
yeah.
And then I guess adjusting, I don't remember it being too hard, like, in the beginning stages. I think I definitely gravitated towards you more than Abba in the beginning because Abba was still, this very scary man.
Still scary.
Yes. Um, and I think with the siblings, it was pretty easy. I remember there was that little rift between Chaya and I where she was like, "I'm not the oldest anymore," and I was like, "I'm not even technically the oldest, like, you were adopted before me."
Yeah. We always had this thing. It's like you are technically the oldest in age, but she was the first, right? Like we tried to like, oh, definitely that was hard for Chaya for sure. But I do remember you like connecting with the kids right away and like them being obsessed with you, right? They just were just like enamored by this like new big sister that they had. Like they just wanted to be with you all the time. I remember that.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
I do remember, like, the outside family being a harder adjustment, like your family and
mm,
Abba's family,
mm,
that was very stressful for me.
and it was a lot of people. So yeah.
Yeah, because I definitely felt like the sore thumb in the room in a way, not that, like, they were doing anything that made me feel like that, but, like, I feel like I was always the center of attention, like, "Oh my gosh, Courtney," or Shoshana, like, depending on the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, there was that.
It was a lot. It's a lot to adjust to. Like not only the immediate family, but then there's the extended family and then there's the community, which I feel like just loved you from the beginning. And they also got to know you a little bit in the summer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Deborah and yeah, your 2 sisters.
My two sisters, but the community in Bozeman,
Oh,
like,
yes.
yeah, yeah, that was like a whole other family that
Mhm.
you know, kind of got along with the package. Yeah, so definitely a lot of new people in your life and also feeling like I have to know everybody and I have to remember everybody's name and it's a lot. And then there's the whole religion piece, right? The Orthodox Jewish practicing piece. Talk to me a little bit about that in the beginning.
So I think going in, I didn't realize how hardcore it'd be,
Hmm.
also how hard it would be.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning stages, I was really fascinated by it originally and was like, wow, like I want to do this, I want to do this, and like take on everything at once. Like I'm gonna be SNES, I'm gonna keep kosher, like nobody could stop me.
Mm,
And as I've like told you before, I think there was like, developmental appropriate moments where like one time Abba came to school during track practice and I wasn't wearing a skirt. But it's like
mm,
granted I was 12 and granted like it's
mm,
uncomfortable.
totally, totally.
I guess it was just like a rush to like take everything on and embrace
Yeah.
everything. And I think I was pretty strong up through it up until about
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah. Okay. So let's pause there for a second. So you come, right? And I think this new life is very attractive, right? And it feels like it's going to be the answer to all the struggles that you have. And obviously this new family that you have are Orthodox Jews. And you mentioned before, right, that you were super fascinated by Judaism. Like that's actually how you got to us because you were asking your grandma questions and she's like, "Well, I only know a little bit, but like let me connect you with the closest Chabad, that's to Cody, Wyoming." And she called us. And that's how we got in touch because of your curiosity was really what prompted it, right? And all I remember your grandma would tell me like all these questions about God that you would have and really deep, like really deep questions. And so you join the family and you're aware that this family practices Orthodox Judaism and you're like all in, right? Like you want in and you want to do it all. And I know we had discussions of like, okay, like doesn't have, like we don't have to accept everything right away. Let's try to just slow it down a little. And I think we'll touch upon this a little bit later as well, but you are an all in kind of girl, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't do things subtly. Like it's either you're in or you're out, right? So it's very hard and especially you're 12 years old, right? So you're just like, no, I'm doing everything, right? So there's this year, like your first year with us. And then at the end of that year is when you officially get adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, so the first year is like we're your guardians. And the way that the process works is then after a year, you become officially adopted. And that's when you change your name.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So when you came into our family, your name was Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Doesn't it feel so weird?
Yeah, it feels like not my name.
It's not your name. But for the first whole year, like you were Courtney. And then when you officially were adopted, and I have like the best pictures from that day. Do you remember that day?
Yeah.
And then we came home and we had a barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you decided to change your name, okay, your last name to Bruk, and then you took on a Hebrew name.
Yeah.
Do you remember your process about picking that name? Okay, tell us.
So I remember I was conflicted between quite a few, like Lila, Esther. I remember even debating Sarah just so I could mess with people so they couldn't say my name.
I remember that.
And then I was debating, so I knew for sure that I wanted my middle name to be Yael. So then I was like, what about Yehudis Yael? Because like, come on, that I've ever even, no.
Like, I don't know, it's a little much.
And then I don't know who introduced me to the name Shoshana, but then I think it was Abba that explained to me like the meaning behind it, that it means rose, and then like Shoshana Beinachlechem and that, and then that's like when it kind of like hit me. I was like, oh, this is like so my name. Like it's so unique. I've never even heard this name, like not even like in the time I've spent in the Orthodox community. Like Shoshana Yael.
Shoshana Yael. It's such a beautiful name. I love that name. And it's true. Like it really just fit you and your energy and who you were. Like you said, like a rose amongst the thorns, right? Like you were a rose amongst the thorns. Like you were a rose growing in the weeds, and you got yourself out of that. And then Yael, who's like a warrior, right? We know that she like saved the Jews and with the general and all that stuff. And like you are a warrior, like you are a fighter. And so that name just felt so right. And it was so beautiful. And okay, so so you spend 2 years, at home and in middle school. And then it's time for high school. And I remember like talking to Jessica about this a lot, your therapist, and really like diving deep, like, should you go away to a Jewish high school? Like, is it too soon? And I remember she told me something so profound. She's like, you have to give her the option. She has to know that you think that she can handle it, right? And because part of me was like, I don't know. It's like too soon. Like you just joined the family 2 years ago. And I don't know. Who knows if we made the right choice, but it is the choice that we made. And it was the choice that, we always do the best we can in the moment. But I remember giving you the option. I remember you really wanting to, right? Like just, I want to do this. And you were still feeling pretty strongly about your Yiddishkeit at that point. So then we started the process of finding a school. So we are going to keep the name of the school out of this discussion so we can talk freely about your experience.
Yes.
And I also know that, and you'll talk more about that, but Lashon Hara is really important to you. So we're going to leave names out, but you can really express how your experience was. Like, how did that go down? Like, tell us about that.
Oh man, this is where it all just like went downhill.
Yeah.
So before this, I had only lived in my like your guys' community. I'd say like secular Orthodox community. And I loved it because in my mind, that's like, this is what authentic Judaism is. Everyone's so nice. Like, everyone that comes to Shoal, they're just so welcoming. And like, you guys were just a judgment-free zone. And then I go to the school. I'd say like in the beginning, I was just more like getting used to like the new way of living in a dormitory.
Yeah.
And then I just started noticing it was really hard to make friends. There was this level of prestige that a lot of these girls carried themselves. And I'm like, why do you think you're so cool? You're like freaking who knows where from New Jersey. Like what?
Yeah. What makes you so cool?
And then there was also a struggle with the academics because I was missing essentially, well, probably not full 12 years, but like maybe like 10 years of Judaic academics that I didn't.
Well, yeah, a huge foundation.
Yeah. And we did hire a tutor, but like, I can only get so much in. I still struggled with
Mhm.
Hebrew. I remember like I had to get, Hebrew tutoring. I remember my favorite class though was halacha. But that's because I like always tested the halacha teacher. Like, what about ghosts and demons? What about this?
Yeah. I remember when you would call home and be like, "We had this conversation in class today," like always the craziest conversations. I'm like, "Oh, you go, Shosh."
Yeah. Every time I walked into the classroom, he'd look down and go,
She's
oh.
oh no, here she comes.
And then I actually also struggled in my normal academics, but I think that's just because of the environment I was in. It was really hard to focus on school. So I became really good friends with one of my roommates that I shared a room with. And I started noticing that she wasn't actually Shomer Shabbos. She only had one phone, but she was able to essentially hack the like,
Yeah, the what's it called? The filters or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then through her, I started meeting the other girls. And the other girls, a lot of them actually had two phones. Some of them had three phones. One was their school phone, and one of them was this like, unlimited access. You get everything on a phone. And for me, that was like, whoa, like, what is this? Like, everyone's at this from school, but no one's from. Well, not that's
Wow.
there were a good amount of girls.
Not no one, but the people that you were encountering more and more.
Yeah, and like, you knew who was from and you knew who wasn't. And I would say a lot of them weren't really practicing what they preached.
Mm.
I guess like I made a really good friendship with two girls, my roommate and then another girl I met through her. They were both a grade above me, but they were both like in the same boat. They weren't really Shomer Shabbos, and I was the only Shomer Shabbos one. And that was like kind of weird for me because like I was already coming from a non-religious world. And then like to go to a religious world where that was actually religious, it was like, what?
It must have been so confusing.
It was because it was like, me, I'm very
Yeah.
judgmental in a sense where like if you don't do what you're supposed to, I'm gonna say something about it. And like
Yeah.
I was very observant about this. Like these people.
You were noticing. You were like, this
Yeah.
is you're very I'd say you're very detail oriented and you notice everything.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, like you don't get away with anything. I know you like sometimes like you were wearing this and this and this like 6 years ago when we went to this and I'm like, what? You're really and you have a crazy memory. So nothing's getting by you, basically.
Yeah. And I remember like the teachers weren't really that nice to me either. I had a few select. I mean, the halacha teacher, even though he probably like hated me, he was like really nice. And then I had a secular teacher who taught secular studies, and he was like the nicest. And he's one of like the main supports I end up going to later on in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then my Hebrew tutor, she was also very, very sweet. And then I guess just fast forward to the juicy part. One of the girls that I was friends with, not the roommate, her family lived in Florida. This is where the school was. And we went to their house for Shabbos. They had somehow worked up this plan that they were going to meet some boys from yeshiva at a canal in the middle of the night. And I was like, okay. And like, I didn't use my phone on Shabbos. And they were like, well, you have to come with us because if my dad comes into the room and we're both gone and you're not here, like that looks weird. But it would look better if we're all gone. So,
okay, really great logic there.
So
teenage logic.
Yeah. So I remember at their family's Shabbos table, I was just like dripping sweat. I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, what if my family finds out? Like, I'm screwed. But I couldn't really get out of that situation, and I wasn't gonna snitch because I'm not really one to snitch on people. So I guess like an hour or two after the Shabbos meal, we sneak out her window and we walk to this canal. And there's three guys there. Within like 2 minutes of getting there, they just like leave me alone with this third guy. I was like, oh boy. There were also like people on, some sort of substance walking around the canal, like random people. There were just like, there was so much scary stuff going on. I remember this guy like was making jokes about like hurting me and how funny it would be to do this and this to me. And I remember there was like, I don't know if it was a doghouse. I don't know why there'd be a doghouse right by a canal, but there was like this little shed. And he was like, what if I took you in this little shed and did this and this to you? And I'm like terrified. And I'm like, what if I just like go to a random house and be like, I need help? But then I'm like, oh, I'm going to get my friends in trouble. So then he eventually says, well, let's go back to where I'm staying because they were staying in a basement of some random from family. So we go back and I was like trying to like, okay, maybe I could go upstairs and like go find out. And then he makes a comment like, oh, well, if you're looking for the door to go upstairs, you have to go through outside to get inside. And the front door's locked. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm.
And then the rest of that night was pretty traumatic. We go back to their house the next that early morning, like maybe 6, 7 a.m. And I just like sleep the whole day. I wasn't really functional. And then they decide they're gonna go meet up with these boys again at this place called Mozart, this like pizza place, and go there and then walk behind the Trump Hotel. And so that happens, and then I'm dragged along again, and I'm just like, I just like, need to get out of the situation. And
Yeah.
so fast forward, we go back to school. I just like, try to put it behind me, but there were like factors that had occurred that was really hard to like move forward because I was also like worried about my health. So I remember I was in class one day and it was like in the afternoon and all three of our names get called on the intercom to come to the office. And I'm like, oh,
Oh boy. Yeah,
I
here it
just
goes.
know. And so they take the 2 girls' phone, but I refused to give my phone because I had something on there that I was like, "No, this is not for the school to see. Maybe my parents can see it, but not the school." And we were going to leave right after on a school bus to go somewhere else, and I remember the head rabbi, like, came out to me screaming at me with the phone, like, "You need to open this, like, you're never coming back to school, like, you're such a disappointment," like, all these things, and I'm like, "No,
Mm.
I'm good."
Mm.
That whole bus ride, like, to the place and back was just horrible. Everyone was talking about me with me on the bus, like, saying crude things about me. In that moment, I was like, "I wanna jump off this bus." Like, "This is
Yeah.
horrible." The girls that were involved in this too, like, didn't even stand up for me. It felt like my character was the main character being defamated, when I feel like in the
Mm.
grand scheme of things, I was, like, the innocent one.
Well, you were kind of along for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
We later found out, though, this is something that this adds to what we'll talk about later, like, why I stopped kind of being religious, but one of the girls' family members, we had been at their place for Shabbos, and he had thought that we had turned on a fan, and so that we weren't Shomer Shabbos instead of, like, calling our parents or something, and that's the whole reason this happened. Not because they knew anything about the boys, but because they thought we were turning on fans.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so then I don't remember how long I was still at school after that, like a week or 2?
Yeah, I don't think it was very long. I know, like, from our end, like, in the end, you did not give your phone to the school. You were like, "I'm not giving my phone," but I ended up talking to you, and you let me open your phone,
Mhm.
and you let me kind of like figure out what was going on, and then it's interesting, like you said, like the school didn't even know about that stuff. They were just thinking that you were breaking Shabbos and they wanted to talk to you about that. But really it was so much more than that, right? Like there was so much scary, unsafe, problematic behavior. So we brought you home and then the school didn't invite you back
Mhm.
and said that they didn't think it was a good fit and all these excuses. And at that point, Abba and I were like, correct. It's not a good fit. And we don't feel safe sending you back. And so it was like March, it was around March time.
Mhm.
And so you were home and then we had to figure out like what was the next step. But I mean, what was going on for you in your head? Like how were you feeling? Like how did this whole process and this whole scenario of like being in this religious school and going down a path that, yes, you ended up doing, but feeling not a lot of power. Like you didn't feel very empowered, right? You were just like, I'm being swept along and I don't have, and I don't really know how to get out of it. And also being really disillusioned by what you were seeing in the school. Like, so what ended up happening in your heart, like, and in your mind? Like, what was going through your head during this time and then eventually coming home?
Um, I think close to the level of pain, even though as a child that I felt when my mom died, it was like that much
Wow.
of emotional
Wow.
stress.
Yeah.
And it like, I guess to go like a little back, like things only got worse from there. There were rumors going around the school that like I can't even say. I was like, where did
That weren't true.
yeah, that were like out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then I do remember, which I told you about, which blew my mind. My roommate and I get called down to the office and they're like, we're going to need to separate you two. And we're like, why? Like, okay, maybe we're troublemakers, like, or we're in trouble, but why separate us? The principal goes to say that they found on her phone pictures of us working out in sports bras and shorts. And that they took that we were essentially not straight. And I was
Mm,
like, that is so far from the truth, but okay.
right. Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, that's really awkward, but it's just going to stay in the principal's office. Oh no, the whole school got this assumption that we were like not straight and, basically
Yeah.
gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just kind of progressed from there. And then I think it was a day or two before I went home is when I went to that like secular teacher and I broke down crying to him. I was like, you're the only person I feel safe to talk to in the school because you're not Jewish.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like, I need someone who's not Jewish.
mm,
I think that was like the beginning, like parts of my brain moving forward, which goes on later in my story. But it's like, I guess
yeah.
in my heart, I was like, the people who I'm supposed to feel most safe around, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't even want to, at that point, it's like, I don't even want to associate with Jewish people. Like, I don't want to be Jewish anymore. That's kind of what I felt. Because it felt like
Yeah.
this people who are supposed to be from and, embrace chesed and all these things were the complete opposite. So,
Wow. And that I mean, and especially coming from your background and the abandonment and the like the pain of like being like misrepresented and not understood, right? Like I'm sure, correct me if I'm off mark, but being misunderstood, especially in your position and especially at such a young age is can be really, really damaging, And
yeah.
I feel like that's kind of where you ended up. Like all these people have all these assumptions about me. And, there's maybe things that I did that weren't healthy or safe or, you know, against the rules. And then that's where those rumors started from. And then it blew up to be so much more than, and then you couldn't like rein it in, right? You had no way to, change the narrative or share with people like what was your truth. And that must have felt really isolating.
Yeah. It was very isolating. I think I've always felt, as I said, like a sore thumb in life. And I think
Mm,
it just like emphasized that. I think it's no secret that after high school, like my mental health or that episode, like my mental health declined again.
yeah. Yeah.
Self harming. I think I was like actively suicidal. I mean, can you blame me?
Yes.
But
Yes.
I think that experience was where I felt like the whole world was against me.
Yeah.
Just so many different versions of traumatic events had happened. And I guess, it was obvious to you guys, like, I wanted to die. I didn't
Yeah.
want to be on earth anymore. And then I think that, like, just went into you guys resorting to the best option.
Well, yeah, that was the catalyst. Like, okay, so you come home and you are very clearly, I would say it didn't even look like you were a mess. You were like disassociated, right? And you were like, I remember you used to tell me like you were not in your body. And you had a lot of, scary thoughts and you were self-harming and to a really scary point to where like some days I made you sleep in my bedroom. I remember going to sleep at night and like not knowing if I would find you alive. Like that's how scary it was for us. And, we tried to do the best we could with, I remember for a while we had, do you remember this? We had like all our knives in the lockbox.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
It's not funny.
I'm like,
It's like kind of funny because like
it's like
sober, it's like
every
knives in a lockbox.
Yeah, like every time I had to cook, I had to get the key and open the lockbox and not that like people always say like if you wanted to find a way you could. But I just remember being coached because this was new to me. It was like, yes, if she wants to find a way, she will, but don't make it easy for her. Like don't make it like she can go into the kitchen, grab a knife and do what she wants to do. Like if she's going to take her life or self-harm in a really big way, like at least make her work hard for it. Don't make it easy. And you did. You would like take apart sharpeners and, I would find all these things under your bed and you're laughing, but do you remember?
Yeah, it's not funny, but it's like it's kind of. I think it's
But you
funny
can
in
look
how I
back at it
handle it.
now.
It's like,
Yeah,
wow, it did that.
yeah. And so it was really scary and heartbreaking. And I was like, I started to feel like I don't know how to keep you alive. Like, I feel like this is out of my league. Like, I obviously am so responsible for you. I love you so much. And how do I keep you alive? Like, I just don't know how. And that was the catalyst for, finding a therapeutic program. And we ended up finding one in Utah and starting off with a wilderness program. And this was like, I don't know, definitely top 5 hardest things I've ever had to do. And I flew you there, and I remember dropping you off in the airport and leaving you there. And I remember before, like, telling you that this is what was going to happen. And of course, you were so upset and you were going to feel so abandoned. And I talked to the therapist about this. I'm like, she's going to feel abandoned. Like, she doesn't have a solid enough foundation to know that this is out of love, right? Like, this doesn't feel like a loving thing, right? This feels so hard and so, like, if you love me, don't do this to me, right? You would, and I remember we came home from, like, we remember we told you with the therapist, and you came home and you, like, that was it. We were, shut out. And I remember you were like, you're not my parents. And I don't, like, I want nothing to do with you. And it was fair. That was an appropriate reaction, And at the same time, like, I think back a lot, like, did we make the right choice? And, would I do the same thing today? And I just keep coming back to the same thought, like, we just did the best we could with information we had. Like, I don't know what I would do today if I were to go back. Probably if I were to go back all the way and have now that we have hindsight, I wouldn't have sent you to high school, right? And I would have kept you home, and maybe that would have stopped the train. But who knows? I felt like through a lot of our journey, we were plugging a lot of holes, right? Like eating disorder and cutting and suicidal ideations and all that stuff. It just felt like we would, like, get over one crisis and then, like, another one would pop up because we weren't really getting to the bottom of the trauma, right? We were, like, plugging holes in all the symptoms of the trauma, but we weren't really getting to, like, the trauma itself. And I finally remember realizing, like, light bulb moment, like, if we don't get to the bottom of this, this is just what's going to happen. We're going to keep plugging holes, and I don't know if you'll survive. So you went to wilderness and for 4 months. And do you have any thoughts that you want to share about that from your perspective?
Yeah. I think even though a lot of what happened in wilderness and even like the aftercare program were very hard in themselves, I think it needed to happen
Mm,
because I
mhm.
think these programs are structured in a way to break you down to your core. Whether I agree with that, doing that to a kid or not, I think that's what it did. And there was a lot of
Mm.
traumatic things happening within these programs. And each program, I found my people. I found people that I latched onto. And I remember latching onto my therapist, and there were a couple staff. And
Really?
there's one staff from Wilderness that I still talk to him every single day.
I don't think I know about every day. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
Caleb. Yeah. Every day we text, and he's like, I don't know how to explain it. He's like a best friend brother relationship now, And
That's really special. I'm really happy to hear that, actually.
yeah, he's just like it's just like a lot of these relationships I built in these programs have carried out. And like him, for example, like
Mhm.
I talk to him every single day. I go to him when I'm struggling about things. And I think in the program, it was those people that kept me going. I don't talk to any of the girls from the program anymore.
Right.
'Cause
Right.
my knowledge, most of them did not end up succeeding. I never in wilderness, there was only one really true incident, but didn't experience anything like super traumatic. I witnessed pretty horrific things, but I was never like the main person. I think overall I'm like grateful I went. Like I succeeded the program. I went to the highest level that you can go. I think the main thing that messed with me is I remember at both places, I had both of my therapists telling me I didn't need to be in programs like this.
Hmm.
And so that really, really messed with my head because it's like, why am I here?
Mm.
And I had staff also tell me it too, like, "You're, like, the most normal one of all these kids," like, a lot of the girls here are here for, like, prostitution or drugs, and I'm just here because like, well, even
'Cause you're trying to not live. That's why you were there.
but I think I hid it so well at the program.
And I think that's what I was gonna say. Like, you told me, like, you are a master at showing people what they need to see.
Sounds so bad.
No, but not physically. But like that's a trauma response, right? Like you are hyper vigilant and you know what this person is looking for, what they want to hear, right? Or what you need to say to get out of the situation that you don't want to be in. And so you really were good at that. And so a lot of the way you spoke and a lot of the way you carried yourself and a lot of the way that they saw you until they peeled away the layers. Once they peeled away those layers, like Trina, she was not saying that anymore. You know, once she got to like the bottom of like some of the real issues of why you were there and what was causing you to have those unhealthy coping skills, right? Like there were reasons for those coping skills, right? And once they got to the bottom of it, you know, there was work to be done. It's such a blessing and a curse, right? Like you're a master at like reading the room, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And it kept you alive for so much of your life. But then at certain points when you are in a healthy environment and you're still doing that, that could be really dangerous and really scary. Do you remember our visit to Wilderness when we came to visit you?
I did not expect it. I was
You're
convinced
so
you guys weren't
surprised.
going to come at all.
Yeah.
Because I think I was like a week or two late from when you usually have the visit. And I remember when you came, I was like, wow. I don't remember much from it, just like crying and being happy. And then we did like that family therapy workshop thingy with my therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you guys visited, it gave me more motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because I had seen everyone else's parents come and all these things, and I was like, wow, mine's not coming.
Yeah. Well, we came when they allowed us to come. Like they were like, okay, you know, not ready, not ready, not ready, yes, ready, you know, and then we were on a plane. And I have such profound memories from that I really cherish, like making pancakes on the open flame when it was pouring rain under a tarp. Like, do you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah.
And that is just a memory that I really hold so dear because I really felt like connected to you at that time and just I really missed you and I like was so happy to see you. And the other thing that it would be interesting to talk about would be like your relationship with your Judaism through these programs. Different.
Yes.
Like what happened?
So going into Wilderness, I kind of dropped everything. I also think it's because in my head, I was like, there's no way I can do this in the middle of Utah.
Right, the middle of the wilderness.
And then I think just like over time, I was realizing, okay, well, it's possible. And they'll make accommodations for me. Like if we were going to go hiking on Shabbos, someone would carry my stuff, or they would just transport my stuff for me and I wouldn't have to carry. And I requested it for a skirt. So then they sent like 3 or 4 different skirts out, and I was able to wear leggings and a skirt, which was actually oddly a little more comfortable than the pants they gave us.
Mm. And you had kosher, like they had a kosher food option too.
Yeah, and which was also crazy though, like with my luck, when I went there, there were 2 other Frum girls there.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
one of them, no comment. The other one, we got really close,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
he had a
Yes.
pretty horrific childhood, and I think we were kind of each other's hope. Like, I remember we did, I wanna say it was Pesach together. Was it Pesach?
No, you weren't in Pesach and Wilderness. You did. Remember she for Lag BaOmer, she was playing her guitar,
Yeah, but we did
but you did Purim.
together. We did, like, an actual, like, maybe it was Shabbos. Maybe it was just a Shabbos that we were doing together with, like, grape juice and stuff.
Maybe it was Pesach.
I think it was.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was because I think the second Pesach you were in Falcon, but the first Pesach, I think. Oh yeah, because you went the day before Purim,
Mhm.
and so then a month in it was Pesach. You're right.
Okay, so we did Pesach together. I remember that, and I think that was a time where I was just, like, I don't know how to explain it. I was just kinda, like, vibing with the Judaism, like, later on, and it was a really, like, judgment-free zone when it came to that. Um,
People were supportive of it,
yeah.
and I think I remember you telling me it because it was on your terms, right? Like no one was forcing you. Like we weren't even like seeing like they would send us pictures, but you weren't even having to please us, right? Like you were on your own and you were able to choose if you wanted to or not. And then I feel like in the wilderness, like you did feel connected and you did on your own terms you were able to do like what felt good for you.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I remember when the other girl had joined the group, I think I was already wearing skirts at this point or just beginning
Mhm.
to, and she came in wearing pants, and then I think a week after she saw me wearing a skirt, she got skirts.
100% I remember that happening.
The other one didn't, but as I said, no comment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was just gonna talk about leaving. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
an aftercare letter, or that I think I got 2 letters. One that I was going to go to an aftercare letter and what did I want from the aftercare letter, and then I got, like, the letter, like, "You're leaving tomorrow. This is where you're going."
Mm.
But I
Mhm.
remember when I got that aftercare letter, I literally wanted to, like, go jump off a cliff. I was like, "I just wanna go home. I'm done with this. I'm done." I felt like I was around such unstable people all the time, and
Mm.
these girls, like, were really scary.
Yeah.
They, like,
Yeah.
came in for pretty violent things, and so then I was like I remember I had talked with Caleb, and I was like, "I don't wanna go. I hate my parents." And then he was like, "Well, what do you want, little lady?" And I was like, "Well, I wanna go to an equine place. Like, if I'm gonna have to go somewhere else, might as well be with what I love, horses."
Mm.
So I remember writing that, and I don't remember if I gave any of their options. I think I just said equine.
Yeah. That was it.
And then what was crazy is I think, like, 2 weeks before I left, I got the highest level of achievement, which from my knowledge, not many people get.
Mhm.
So you get a compass, and you can go know the day and the time. Before, you couldn't know the day and the time. And with the compass, you could lead hikes, so you could also know your location, which before you couldn't know, which is like, if you know that, you can easily run away.
Mhm.
And so it was the day before I found out I was leaving, I got to lead a 9-mile hike
I
through,
remember
like, this
that.
big mountain. I'm not even joking. I remember looking at it, I was like, "There's no way we're going over this." But as we were going through the mountain, there was, like, horse carcasses, and yeah, did I not tell you this? There was,
I
like,
don't
horse
remember the horse carcasses
yeah, there
part.
was, like, horse bones, horse carcasses, like, a bunch of horse stuff everywhere, like horse poop, and then in the middle of the hike, there was, a mare and her foal just, like, in the middle of a field, and I was like, "This is crazy. I've never seen horses here before."
Mm.
And I was like, "Man, I wonder if I'm going to a horse place. Like, this is just odd." Because I think I had overheard something with one of the staff talking about, like, me getting another letter, so I was like, "Well, good." So then that night, the night before I got the letter that I was leaving, we were in the camp, and in the middle of the night, like, a whole herd of wild horses just, like, run through the camp.
No way.
But you just hear, like, "Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum," and everyone was scared, but I was like, "Dude, this is cool."
Yeah.
It was that next morning, I get a letter that I'm leaving, and I'm going to a equine, like, where I went, and I was like, "Wow." So that I took that as a sign from God that, like, this is where I'm supposed to be if I'm going somewhere and, like, all these signs, like, horses everywhere, like,
Yeah. We worked really, really hard to find a place, at least, like you said, at least if you were going, we wanted you to have the horses. And because you grew up with horses, that is something that is really, really important to you. And we're like, we've got to find a place that, focuses on that. And I think was a big part of some of the healing that you did, like, with your horses and specifically the trainer that you had, the horse trainer at that school was pretty amazing.
Mhm. The transition to the next school was pretty hard. I remember
Yeah.
saying I felt like I was in a Dr. Phil episode. That's, like, what it felt like.
Yeah.
Because there was, like, line structure and, like, really strict rules and, like, there was, like, an A group, a B group, and a C group, and you couldn't, like, talk with each other. And then that's when I was introduced to restraining, where staff would restrain girls. I had seen it maybe once or twice in wilderness, but that's, like, if someone, like, tried, booking it in the middle of the woods.
Mm, mm.
And as I said before, like, in these programs, I found people that I linked onto, and I had quite a few at this place. Granted, it was probably a bigger population. I had an original therapist for about 6 months until she quit. I never really connected with her because I felt she had favorites.
I remember this, and you didn't really make much progress or growth when you were with her. And I was worried when she left just because it's what you know. But then when you got Jenkin, like everything changed after that. Like you were growing.
Yeah. So I was originally gonna get another therapist who had taken her spot, and I was like, "No, no, I can't, I can't. I need Jenkin." I don't know why, I was just
Hmm.
like, I know,
Yeah, because he was amazing.
because he was, like, the head equine specialist, and so he only had 3 girls, and no, he had 4 girls, and I was one of the 4, and then I think from there is when things just took off, and, every other I think basically every week my therapy session was an equine therapy session. I very
Mhm.
rarely was in his office,
Mhm.
unless we did family therapy because we can't really do that outside.
Right, outside, yeah.
And then there were staff there that I really connected to. I remember there was Jean, and then there was Savannah, Sam. There was just like quite a few staff that I really, really, lucked out with. And then there was my
Talk ab Yeah, your horse. I remember meeting your horse. It
yeah,
was so sweet. It was the best.
he was.
Um, okay, and talk to me about because when you went to Falcon, you were pretty, you know, connected and religious at that point, and they were pretty amazing about that,
They
correct?
were. I will give them that. They gave me my own kitchen, which I did get
Correct.
bullied for because white girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a big like portion of these girls who were there were not white, and so I was like picked on for that. And then I got my own
Mm.
kitchen, so they're like, "Wow, this white girl."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember the cook, like she would come in early and like she would go to the store and she'd ask me what I want, which none of the other girls got this, but like she'd be like, "What do you want?" So she got me like the Cat's kosher gluten-free donuts every morning, or they were really thorough about like the meat that they got me and like including me in these things. I remember staff would, when they'd bring treats for the girls, they'd make sure they got OU items, and they were like really, really there for me. And I think that's because a lot of the staff there were Mormon.
Mhm. They respected religion, like, they understood it, you know?
And I remember Jenkin, my therapist, had did the whole Pesach Seder with me one night, like 2 hours.
Mhm.
He, like, tried reading
Did the whole
scripture,
thing. The
drank all the grape
matzah, the
juice.
grape juice.
He was a diabetic, and he, like, drank all the grape juice,
Wow.
and I
I
remember I was
remember
like,
that.
"Oh, like, this is cool."
Well, you were supposed to come home for Pesach, remember? And then that's when COVID hit.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to go home.
You were supposed to come home for Pesach. And, because like, you do eventually like, at that in that program, you do have a home visit for, like, a
And I
couple weeks,
had a home visit because
and you never had a home visit because COVID hit and everyone was stuck. And so we had to scramble and like cater food and get you like the whole like 9 yards. And, we were obviously so disappointed. And then, but it was like so special to hear that like you didn't do it alone. Like someone, Jenkin was there with you doing it. And of course, it's not like being home, but it was just nice to know that you had support,
yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you graduate Falcon,
Mhm.
right? You did a little bit of ninth and 10th grade
Yes.
in Falcon. So you come home, you graduate, and what was that like, the transition back home?
It was scary. I think I'd
Yeah.
gotten so accustomed to these very structured programs. And I remember one of the biggest conflicts I think that happened, at least between Abba and I, is the way that they like had trained my brain to communicate. It's like, I hear you, I see that, I observe this, and like that's how I literally was communicating all the time. That's how my brain processed. And I remember like going home and like an issue would happen, and I'd be like, I hear that, I see that. And Abba would be like, stop therapizing me. And I'm like, this is what I know. And I remember just feeling so
Yeah.
lost because I'm like,
Yeah. Like, I don't know how to navigate this.
and
Like,
now,
I think I'm doing the right thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was also very sad because, like, one, I got really close with my horse. I got really close with
Mm.
Jenkins.
Mhm.
Another staff I remembered is Miss Jane, the science teacher.
Mhm.
Dude, I would
Mhm.
like chew on
Yeah.
her ear and like get so much information from her. Like, tell me about this. Like, I want to learn every bone in the body. Let's do this. Like, I just took like advantage of that, and I was like, ooh, time for the real world.
Yeah. 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 So you're home and, you're having to get used to like they really prepared us in the sense that like it's a hard transition to get back into just like civilian life, like just being out in the regular world. You're so kind of protected and regimented in these programs, you don't really have a lot of access to the outside world. Do you remember this? You like slept in my bed for a few nights when you came
Oh,
home. You
really?
don't remember?
Oh,
Yeah, you would come to me middle of the night and just like having really bad dreams. And okay, so you're back home and now you are going to the field school, which is like a small kind of science-based field school, which was kind of really like the only option that we felt
comfortable with.
made sense, but then it was pretty weird school. So tell us about that. Like, what was that like? And how, like, where did your life go from there?
I guess it was my first time being, I guess since high school, like since like ninth grade, I mean, being in a not so structured environment because like the religious school is very structured and then these programs are very structured. And I just remember like a lot of times I'd like ask teachers, is this okay to do? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, and one thing the school was very adamant about is like having kids like find their own autonomy and like be you. And I was like, I don't know who I am, but I'm the Jew.
Hmm.
So that's just who
Hmm.
I was in the school for the longest time,
Hmm.
was like the Jew. And then I started, making friends. And I think it was around now, like around that time when like, people were like, well, do you even want to be religious? Like, do you want to be
Mm.
Jewish? And I'd kinda sit there and I'd be like, "No, but I have to," and I'm like, "Well, I kinda do,
Hmm.
but I kinda don't," and then I guess just, like, I don't really know where to go from here, it's just, like, it kinda just all started spiraling down.
Yeah, you told me, well, basically, well, the school was a very interesting school and it was very open, right? In their ideas. And I remember you telling me like they kind of encouraged you to kind of explore and like you're like they I guess they're the opposite of Utah, right? That they didn't value religion. So
Mhm.
they didn't really respect it. So in my opinion, it wasn't supported and it was actually kind of the opposite. It's like they kind of egged you on to like explore your other options. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so, like, I think they were very respectful, but I think there was, like, that, "Well, if you don't wanna be religious, like, here's
Yeah.
do this,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know a single religious person in the school, like, that was actually religious. There was
Any religion.
yeah,
Any religion. Though they were very like not God centered and just very secular.
very woke.
Very woke. Correct. 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 So okay, so you're making friends and you're kind of exploring other options for your life. And where did it go from there?
Well, I think junior year, I was a very good
Yeah.
girl. I didn't really do anything that bad. I like sometimes would test the limits, but like besides that, I wasn't like really going overboard. And then I think it was senior year. I think I'd started getting comfortable enough at home. It was around the time that I got a car, I got my
Mhm.
license, I got a job. And I think once I got a job, car, well, obviously license, that's when like I was like, okay, now I can really.
The world has opened up. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember, I mean, earlier in the podcast, I remember me saying, like, "These girls had 2 phones." So,
Mhm.
I remember you and Abba had got me a Gab phone, which ironically enough, I think is a Mormon brand.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
That's interesting. That makes sense.
it's just like a phone where you can call, text, and take pictures. And one of my friends was finally like, "Well, do you want, like, a second phone so you can get Snapchat like all of us?" And I was like, "Oh, no." I remember for the longest time, I rejected it because I was like, "My
You held out.
That's
Yeah.
me. Someone at school, one of the boys had mentioned, "Well, your dad could probably see the device on the Wi-Fi." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not doing that because he's gonna catch me." But then eventually someone was like, what are the chances that they're gonna catch you?" So I was like, "Okay." So I get my little trap phone and I get Snapchat, and that's literally all I got. Oh, and I got TikTok. And then this like whole new world opened up because like, my friend would be like, "I want to add you," and then their friend would add me, and then all of a sudden, like I had so many people on Snapchat. And then long story short, ended up meeting a boy and getting a little secret boyfriend that my parents had no clue about, which I
No clue.
thought you guys would find out. Or there was a couple times where I swear Abba caught me because there was one time I went through a roundabout and Abba went through the same roundabout as me while I was in the car with this boy.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, how have they not caught on?
He's like, "Okay, that's it. I'm dead now. Like, forget about it. I'm caught."
I'm
No, we really didn't catch you. That's the truth. We did not know.
Yeah. So this boy, I guess, would say like, like your cliche first love. Like, the first time I think I, like, actually romantically loved someone, like, even at that age, and so I had changed colleges for him, and because he was adamant about staying in Bozeman, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to MSU," even though I applied to many other great colleges.
And got into so many of them. And then all of a sudden you're like, "Well, I'm just gonna stay in Bozeman." I'm like, "What? Why?" Like, why though? And, you were just like, well, I changed my mind. And it was only later, I think it was before college that, we, I don't know how we found out. You told
I
us?
remember, but it was when I had pink eye, when I was really sick in the summer. I had like all of that illness
Oh,
at once. And then I think because I was so physically broken down, I was like, you should know this. Because Abba was about to
yeah.
come. And remember, I was like going to you about like oils and flower remedies for heartbreak. And you were like, why are you heartbroken?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. It's all coming back to me. Yeah. Okay. So we ended up finding out before you go to college, but you literally changed colleges for him.
Yeah. And then as soon as I accept MSU's offer and like decline every other college, he breaks up with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, well, one, because I had an opinion on abortion that he didn't agree with, and two, he thought I was a bad girlfriend. When I was like, okay, so I was sacrificing everything to see you, my parents, probably my car, which, there ended up being like, consequences for the car and like
hmm
everything. Just like, it felt like such an abandonment to me. So I was like, okay, no, this is like,
Well, it was. I mean, that is quite the abandonment, I might say.
I know it's just like high school love, but it was like, it just struck me so hard because I'd
Well,
sacrificed
you sacrificed a lot for it.
so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I think he kind of opened my eye to like just kind of taking on my own path with things. And I went to college. I lived in the dorms. I moved out of the house. And I think just slowly over time, I was like, you know what? I don't like dressing sneeze. Like, to be honest, like, I don't like it. Like, I want to wear shorts when I go to the gym. And then, like, with kosher, I was like, this is really hard to do in a dorm. I think it was more that it was
hmm
more hard to do than I didn't want to do it.
hmm
And then like Shomer Shabbos, it's like, well, there's like a party going on, or my friends want to go out, and it's like, I want to go. Why shouldn't I go? And I
hmm
think just like over time, and then I remember there was a period where I tried going back into it, and I told you I want to do everything all at once, and then it was like, just kidding, I don't.
Yeah. Well, let's hang there for a second. So, the first year you're hanging in the dorm. You come home. I
Occasionally,
think occasionally. I think the first year of college was difficult. Like, and it was a difficult time in our relationship as well. And like I say, it was one sided because I would keep trying to call you and you would ignore me for months. I was like, and then finally I said, Shosh, I am not calling you anymore. Like when you want to speak to me, like you know my number. And then I remember just like not calling you for a little while. And then eventually, like, you need your mommy and you called for like a crisis.
yeah.
Yeah. You were with your grandma and it was going badly and you were just like, "Oh my gosh, I need you?" And so the first year of college was a little bumpy. I mean, there were a lot of great moments, but there was a lot of times where like you just were really separating. Like you were separating, right? Like I'm on my own, I'm in college. I'm not gonna like associate with you, especially because if you weren't aligning with, the value system or whatever, you were just like, I just need to like be on my own, and not have so much interaction with your family, which I totally understand where that came from. I didn't love it. Like it was hard. And then you said like what you wanted to like all of a sudden you like wanted to go back to being like religious. I remember we had tea and you're like, okay, like I want to take it all on again. And what did I say to you?
Take it slowly.
You're like one thing at a time, take it slow. Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And let's review. Does Shoshana do slow?
No.
No. Does Shoshana do new like some things? No, like for you, it's all or nothing, right? And so you kind of for a few months went back to like tznius and kosher and all the stuff, right? But it didn't really last for too long. And then we're kind of back to where we started. And then it takes us to your second year of college, right?
Yeah, sophomore year. Oh man, I
Sophomore year.
forgot for a second. I'm in my.
Can you believe that you're like a junior now? I can't believe it. So what was sophomore year like?
I think it was just when I slowly started doing things again on my own terms. but just in a sense where I was like, I think in a lot of ways in the past, I think wilderness and the treatment center were an exception because it was something that gave me purpose and to hold on to. But I
Mhm.
think most of my life I was kind of striving to be from to fit in a certain way and to be liked by you guys. And I think part of me always kind of knew that I didn't want to be from like, the career path I want to go into. It'd be really, really hard to be from, which might sound.
Well, tell everyone what you're studying.
Oh, I'm studying criminology and I'd like to go into law enforcement. If not law enforcement, I might like go get a master's and like a PhD. I'll decide once I'm done with 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. In like forensics, right? Like
Yeah.
in that whole field. Yeah.
And
Yeah. So pretty intense career path.
it'd be really hard to do like from, and I also, a lot of the rules don't make sense to me. And something we talked about, I'm an extremely rational person, which can get me into a lot of trouble, like in my relationships with people. I will use ration over what, emotionally makes sense. I've had like friendships over it.
Mm.
And
Which is why that's a really good career path for you.
yeah, that is true.
But it does kind of like everything has its pluses and minuses and it can get in the way of other things.
Yeah. And I think I've always kind of felt in a way, I guess I'll just be blunt. I felt a lot of ways that Judaism had a lot of like patriarchal, which I know it is kind of like a patriarchal religion, a lot of ways that like I felt was diminishing my light as a woman. Like I remember in camp, I would be like, explain to me why sneeze is so important. And they'd be like,
Mm,
your body's a gem and like you should hide it. But then in my mind, I'm like, okay, but like, why do men get such leniency? Like
mm,
I can look at
mm.
a man the same way a man can look at me. And I think that was hard for me to understand. And kosher, I was like, I could get health wise, but like,
That's not really what it's about, right?
yeah,
Like you're
like,
not keeping kosher for health reasons. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just think so much didn't make sense to me. And it felt very like I wasn't like it felt in a lot of ways that like being from was like you were living back a few years, like you weren't
Mm,
living in present times. And for me at least, like when I was like practicing, and it also a lot of times felt like, these like chains in a sense that were holding me down. Like I love the idea of being from, and I appreciate Judaism for its beauty, but I think at that point I was like, I'm not gonna put that on myself that I have to be this way?
right. Right. Do you think trauma history plays a role into feeling trapped in religion or feeling, maybe a little unsafe or like things not making sense? Like, do you think that that has some validity or like it played a role in your ability to like take it on?
I think so 100%. I think it's very hard to like, be from, and like I think with me, like I don't like being put in a box. I don't like other people defining me. And I think like going back to high school, that's why that religious school is really hard at the end because everyone was putting me in
Mm,
boxes.
mm,
And I think I'm also very much so about like taking control of my own life. And I feel like with, being from, there's a lot you can't control. Um
yeah, or there's a lot of things like we talked about. There's a lot of things that don't have logical reasons to them.
Mhm.
And from my experience, just, having children with trauma and like really, trying to understand things from your perspective, right? And it just makes sense to me that when you grow up with a big you've only shared a few of your traumas, but you've had many, and that leaves you feeling really out of control and in somebody else's power, and to feel safe, you need to know like what's happening, why is it happening, does this make sense? Am I safe? And so when things are because God said so, right? Or they don't have like a very logical trajectory towards them, I think people with trauma, and I think for you in specific, like that is scary. And that is everything is, fights against that. It's like, no, I don't like this doesn't feel safe to me. And I don't, and I need the power, right? I need to feel safe. I need to be making the choices. I need to know like that whatever I'm doing is like 100% because I want to and because I feel empowered. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah. I agree with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and I just think over time I figured out a way where I feel connected to God, and, like, I've realized my relationship with, like, God and how I do things doesn't need to be, like, people's business, so to say, like, I think it should
Yeah.
be private between, like, me and what I believe, and, um, so I think that's where
Um, and I want to add one more thing. And besides for the trauma piece, like you said, you're a very, very science evidence based, show me the proof type person,
yeah.
right? And so you combine those two things, and it's like, that's not working for you, you know? And then, which leads me to my next question, which you sort of just touched upon. It's like, okay, so what is your relationship with God right now and Judaism? Like, how do you relate to it? What does it mean to you? Like, and also things are fluid, right? It can change, but right now, like, how is it sitting for you?
I think as of right now, in relation to Judaism, I have a respect for you guys and, all people that I know that are practicing. I still find a very strong, sense of beauty within it. I do think that ever since like the whole October 7th thing, that like respiked me piping in and like, sharing and sticking up for Judaism and like sticking up for everything that I essentially believe. So I
Hmm.
think that
Hmm.
has made me a little more like um
Grounded. I would say
grounded
grounded. Yeah.
with what I believe.
Yeah.
I think as of with my relationship with God, like I think I have a very strong relationship with God, and I don't think I have to like I don't feel comfortable, I guess, like sharing with the world like how I do that and how I
Yeah.
practice. I mean, it's very evident I'm not from, so I mean if you want to judge me, I hope you lose sleep over it. I hope you
There's Shoshana,
I in your life now.
feisty,
She's
coming out to play.
uh
uh,
yeah. And I think also like within the family there's like a huge sense of mutual respect. Like
yeah.
I'll come home sneeze to respect you guys, and
Hmm. Very, very much so.
So I think family wise, it doesn't seem to really. I mean, I'm sure there's heartbreak on your and Abba's end, but I think there's still like mutual respect.
Absolutely. I think, we're at a place right now which is really beautiful. Like you said, mutual respect. We love each other, and I think it's really important that you know that we love you for you, right? Not for what you do and the commandments that you keep. You have value just because you're you, right? And I think that is probably one of the most important and beautiful things in a relationship. And I think we've really come a long way. Like, yes, there was bumps along the road. It was a huge learning curve for Abba and I to navigate because it's new to us, right? And we threw it out at all, like had a huge value of like supporting you, but also making sure that there were some boundaries, for the family, and just also to instill within you respect for other people. And you don't have, it's not like a betrayal of your belief system if you respect the environment that you're in, right? So, like, if you're going into an environment where, there's a certain dress code, you would do it. Even if it wasn't a Jewish thing, right? So just respecting that you're in an environment and instilling that respect in you. And I think we are so blessed because you are so respectful and you are so, yeah, like there's a mutual respect there. And I think that really is the beautiful part of our relationship. And I remember like just reflecting, like there was a time where you really, 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 really were very distant and cut off from anything Judaism or God. And I do think it started happening a little bit before, just like that little like feeling of your soul. But I think you really reconnected a little bit after October 7th and just knowing that like we need to like stick together. But yeah, I want to ask you, and I think we touched upon this, but I want to ask it in a more clear way. Like, so is there any part of you that can thinks that there's such a thing as doing a little bit, right? Or is it like an all or nothing? Like, because I think my experience with you is like, no, it's either everything or nothing. Like I've never seen you really, I'll just do this and not the rest. Like, does that, even compute like for you? Like, is that even an option?
I think it's possible to do a little bit and not do everything, but I think it's more so like I as this is very blunt, I just don't have a desire to do anything.
Right.
So
No,
if I
correct.
did, then like, I can see myself having capable of like some weekends coming home for Shabbos and like that being
Mm-hmm.
okay, or like some days for
Mm-hmm.
16th. But like as of right now, like I don't have any desire to. And I think that's just because of like where I stand and also all the experiences I had with
Yeah.
not the family, but like
Yeah.
Orthodox people. Like I don't want to associate with them.
Mm. So I think what you're saying is like it kind of like even dipping your toes in a little, the association is so strong for the negativity that you experience that it's just like it doesn't align with you. So you're just like, I can't even associate a little bit, you know?
Yeah, like obviously like defend Jews and like, defend like what my family stands for and everything. But outside of that, I will not do like I just have no desire.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't align with you at this point of your life. We never know like where our life takes us. And I have no expectation or no like innate like, hopes or dreams or desires. Like I really want you to be on your own journey, right? And always know that, we're here, we're your family and feel supported in that way. Okay, so the last question, and unless like after this question, unless you want to add anything, you could totally do that. But my last question for you is, how do you think our relationship has evolved over the years?
Um,
I know. I can't believe I'm asking this. I'm like, this is a scary question for both of us.
yeah, I think in the beginning it was pretty solid, and then I think got very tested with the things I struggled with you and Abba not knowing how to help me and me kind of just being like, I'm just gonna do Shoshana, so don't even come at
Oh my God, you used to say that all the time. I just need to do me. I just need to do Shoshana. And we would be just like, huh? What does that mean?
this like 13-year-old, like, don't even talk to me. Um,
Literally. Oh my God, yes.
and then I think in high school it was pretty rocky. And then I think once I came home, and I think even like in the equine place I was at is when it started getting better and like there was a stronger foundation. And I'd say in high school it was like pretty solid. And then I think when I went to college, the first 2 years were pretty rocky.
I would say the first year.
Yeah, like year and a half maybe.
Last year, October, like think about when October 7th was. It was the beginning of the year.
Oh yeah. Okay,
So
yeah.
I really think it was freshman year was a little rocky
Freshman
for
year was
sure.
pretty rough.
But I have to say also a little one-sided.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with me.
No,
I
I
just want you
do. I was
to.
those weird moments where I was like, I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
touch them. I don't have a reason
Yeah.
why, but I don't like them right now. It was
Yeah.
bad, but
Fair. No, but very fair. Like I can handle that.
yeah, I don't know. I think there was just so much change that happened in my life, and like
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
in a lot of ways I didn't feel the greatest with my relationship with you guys in regards to those changes, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
and so then yeah, I think around October 7th, and then like your sister's wedding. Wait, no, that was freshman year. Your sister's wedding.
That was freshman year.
So I remember the wedding was good, but
That was the end of freshman year.
oh yeah, true. So I guess around then is it got really strong. And I remember in the summer going into my sophomore year, I was going through a very challenging situation
Yeah.
during that time. And I remember going to you all the time. And you would
Mhm.
like listen to me about something that you were probably like, Shoshana, you gotta stop talking about this and end this. But
That's not how I felt. I never feel that way with anything that you tell me. I have to ask you, I think I asked you this the other day. I'm like, Shoshana, has there ever been a time you've told me some crazy things? Have I ever freaked out by anything you've ever told me?
not really, no.
Not really. I I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, and then I think it's just gotten stronger over the past year. And like I basically, all of the ins and outs of my life, even the
Mhm.
things maybe you shouldn't know. I do think the last 2 years of high school, I think I got closer with Abba, and
Mhm.
then I think once going to college, I think Abba and I are not as close. I will go to
Mhm.
him things like, he is a co-signer for my apartment or, like, apartment issues, financial issues, I'll go to him about those, and if I ever ask to go for coffee, he'll meet for those.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are certain things that like that you go to Abba for, and there's certain things that you go to me for, right? And we each have our strengths and like the way that we support you. And I know sometimes like I look at you and Abba's relationship and I can get jealous. I'm like, wait, how come I don't have that? But then we have things that he doesn't have. And I always have to like remember and focus that like we have our special relationship and you have your unique relationship with Abba. There are many, many, things that you had to work really, really hard at a relationship with Abba. And not on anybody's like, Abba's great and you're great. It's just a 12-year-old girl coming into a new home. Like that takes a lot of effort on both parts. And you guys, like, yeah, there are ups and downs, but I think you guys have done a really good job. Like, for the most part, like the bond that you have and the relationship that you have, the jokes that you have together, like, yeah, it has its moments and there's times where you feel less close or more close. But in general, just the fact that you guys have done that, it deserves a lot of credit, I think, for both of you.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. Um,
Yeah.
then, yeah, I'd say, like, now, like, we're really solid. Um
Yeah. Yeah. And I really believe that it'll just get better and better. And of course, everything has its trajectory. And of course, things will be hard and there'll be moments where we're frustrated with each other. But I feel really grateful to have this relationship with you. I feel really grateful that it's solid enough that we were able to do this. Because if you think about it, it's pretty scary and pretty brave.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you for being brave enough to share your story, and I'm glad that you have an opportunity to share your story, how it was for you, not through my lens, but through your lens. And I feel like that's very important. And if people are going to know who you are, it's only fair that they know the things that you want them to know.
Mhm.
So any last thoughts?
Um, well, my cat's trying to beat down my door, but,
They were behaved pretty well for this
now
hour and a
they're like,
half.
"Meow, open the door."
Yeah. Yeah. We'll wrap up.
I think my last thoughts are just, like, I think the main part that really intrigued me to do this, I mean, one is I feel
Mhm.
there's a lot of my story out there. In some ways,
Mhm.
I wouldn't align with it, or there's a lot of rumors and assumptions and crazy stuff that has been said about me that it seems that a lot of people get a kick out of. And not even just in the high school setting, there have been many settings where I have been informed of things that people say about me, and I seem to honestly be a hot topic.
Mhm.
And I guess
Well, yeah, sorry for interrupting. I think you're right. Like, you're fascinating. It's a fascinating situation. It doesn't happen often, and I am not like a private person. So, like, yeah, I'm not hiding you under a rock, right? Like, so just by osmosis, like, people are just very curious. And sometimes curiosity comes off as, disrespectful or a little boundary pushing. But for the most part, I give people the benefit of the doubt. Like they just are so curious about you and fascinated and just want to know. And that's why I wanted to give you the opportunity to like, people want to know about you. People are already curious. Tell them on your own terms.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a big part that's curious, but I also think there's a part of like I'd say more like towards my age group or even
Yeah.
people's
Yeah, totally.
brothers. They like to like put my name in their mouth a lot. And I guess the one
Hmm.
thing I wanted to say is like I if people decide that I am what they want to talk about and gossip about and say mean things about, then so be it. Like that's what my presence on earth should be for. But um I guess my main message is that like I try to be as kind to people as I can, like actually embody chesed and give
Hmm.
people more and more chances.
Hmm.
But like my encouragement would be that like women in the frum world like need to be nicer.
Mm.
Yeah, but like
I heard that. That was the cat.
stop, for just like speaking poorly about others. And I know I'm not the only girl that has gone through something like this. And it was their from community that shunned them out, and not shunned them out, but treated them so horribly.
Gossiped.
Yeah, treated them so
Gossip.
horribly that they're not from anymore. And
Yeah.
I think that reflects a lot. Um, and I think that's just kind of it. And it's like, also, like, if people choose to judge me on the fact that I'm not from, that's okay. As I said, I hope you lose sleep over it. Like, I'm not. I feel content in who I am. Obviously, if I'm on here saying this.
Well, judgment is usually, I mean, we're all humans and we all naturally judge. That's the honest truth. But it's like what you do with that judgment, and do you catch yourself when you are judging, and do you notice when you're judging other people, like where is that coming from? In my experience, because I feel like I'm funnily enough, I'm also in that position a lot. I think people make assumptions about me, right? And my choices in life, and there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot that we do that is out of the box, that doesn't fit the narrative of a lot of people. And there's a lot to gossip about, right? So when people judge, what I notice and what I tell myself as well is that it's judgment's usually coming from a place of like insecurity.
Mhm.
And if people are feeling insecure, then it's really easy to judge other people. And I love the message of we can do better, right? Like we can do better. Let's embody, like these are the Torah, like values of gossip and rumors and lashon hara. Like we can do better, and let's try to honor that and really see everyone with a kind eye. Is I think the message that you're trying to say. Is that right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Good.
think what I went through with a lot of people is something I don't want other young girls to go through.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being brave
mhm.
and doing this with me. I feel really honored, and I feel lucky to have you in my life, and for you to be my daughter, and for you to feel safe enough to share with everyone with me.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be your child.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that episode. It was really, really cool to do. It turned out to be a real conversation between Shoshana and I, each being able to share our own perspective and experiences on our journey of life together. I found myself like really in a unique position in that interview because I had to juggle a lot of hats, right? So like I was the interviewer, right? And I'm trying to be an objective interviewer. And also like I'm Shoshana's mom, right? And that's a very unique place to be like running the interview and being like the person who's asking the questions, but also having been part of so many of those experiences and being Shoshana's mom, even in the interview, showing up as her mom, even in the interview. So it definitely was a really unique experience. I think a lot of times, if you're having that kind of conversation on an interview type platform, you would maybe have like a moderator or like a third person interviewing the both of us. But this was really special. And there are times where I'm hearing something and I'm like, but wait, that's not how I saw it, right? And trying to balance like giving space for Shoshana to share her truth and her story, but also having been very much a part of it and having my experiences, at the same time as being the interviewer and wanting people to like really hear her perspective for the most part, and me kind of sharing at the same time how it was for me and the experiences that I had and the reasons behind the choices that my husband and I made sometimes. And so I hope that it was something that impacted you in a positive way and was just really fun to do and important. Like I'm really, really happy that we're at the place that we can do that. And Shoshana's old enough to be able to share her story and her narrative in the way that she feels comfortable with. And it was all in all really good and really vulnerable. So, I can't say that this is a big one to have been released. And I really hope it lands in the way that is positive for the world. So thanks for being my loyal listeners. I love you all. And for some question answers. Okay. The first one is, would you ever move out of Montana? So I've learned pretty early on in life, and I keep learning that we can decide and plan all the things we want, and we just don't always have control over all the things that we think we have control over. So in my short answer, there is no plans to ever leave Montana except for when Mashiach comes. We love Montana. This is our home. Like, this is where our roots are. This is where we have a beautiful community. This is where we poured our heart and soul into. So no, we don't plan on leaving except for when Mashiach comes. And not to say that there aren't challenges that we have to navigate. And I think that's like that for most people in most locations. Like, no location is perfection and that you're ever going to have like nothing getting in your way. But we have found ways with even the challenging either medical stuff we had to deal with or educational stuff. We've found ways to continue to be able to live in Montana fully and do the best we can with all the different moving pieces. So short answer, no. Long answer, Hashem only knows. I guess that's also a short answer. Okay. Next question is, why isn't adoption more common in the frum community? So it's a very good question. I think my first answer is, it's hard to know for sure why things are the way they are. I could just be making an educated guess. I don't have any data to support, what I feel or think, but this is just my personal thoughts. But I think there's very nuanced. I think it is different and it's difficult and it's not readily, easily accessible and available in the frum community. You definitely have to think out of the box. You most likely have to look outside of the community to facilitate adoption, the adoption process. So I think it's a little bit of like closed-mindedness around it. Like, it's just too much new and different that it's just not as readily on people's minds and fingertips. I think also, it could be really overwhelming to try to navigate the halachic ramifications around adoption, and people get very worried about that. And it tends to dissuade people from, instead of trying to like find ways to make it work, it's just like, oh no, this is too hard. This isn't possible. And I think also adoption is not a quick, easy fix. And it's also not a substitute for biological children. I think it's really important that having adopted children is one experience and having biological children is another experience. And I think if you're trying to slip one in place of the other, it's complicated. And I don't think everybody is cut out for adoption. I just don't. And I think there's no shame in that. It's really, really important to know who you are and what you can handle and what makes sense for you. And if you feel like adoption isn't the right thing for you, you shouldn't do it, right? Like, it's not something that you should just do anyway, even though it feels wrong. Like, there's so much at stake. You have somebody's life in your hands. And if you aren't feeling totally comfortable with the idea, it's not right for you. And so I just think that there's so many layers to it that it's just not an easy decision. And it's not super common to like, have what to look at and what to compare it to and to feel comfortable in a community around it. So I think it's becoming more, hopefully with more education and more exposure, it will be an option for more people. But like I said, it isn't for everybody. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution to infertility at all by any means. Okay, third question. Okay, this is a long question, so I'm going to read it to you and then we'll tackle the answer. So it starts like this. Time management. How do you have time to take on a huge project such as a podcast? It's so well done. I would love to do more with my time, not a podcast, and learn to fit in. Okay. So, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate your feedback on the podcast. I love that you love it. And time management. Okay. So, I think we had a question about this on last episode. And I think that's just something that comes with a lot of practice and time and a lot of intention. Like, if you want to figure out what you have time for, pay attention, be curious how you spend your day, how much of your day is spent with necessities, how much time of your day is spent with things that you love doing, how much of your time is spent with the daily grind. Like, just start to get curious about your schedule. And if there's something that you love to do, you will find time for it. I mean, that's my theory. Like, I really, really, really wanted to have a podcast. I really felt so pulled to do it for so many years. And for a long time, I felt like I couldn't do it. I didn't have time and it wasn't going to fit into my schedule. And there were so many obstacles. I just obviously wasn't really ready. And then finally, when I became ready enough and confident enough and just decided to jump in with 2 feet, even though I had no idea what I was doing, and even though it wasn't going to be perfect, and even though it's so vulnerable, like, I was ready to jump in. And then you find the time. It kind of like happens. You just make the time and you just stick it in your schedule and everything kind of falls into place, around that. And not saying that it's easy and it's not without its challenges. And sometimes I do feel like I'm a chicken without a head and I'm running from one thing to the next. And I'm like, what was I thinking? I don't have time for this. But when it comes down to it, if you really want to do something and it's going to fill a need and it's going to like explore a part to yourself that you haven't had a chance to explore, go for it. Do it. Like, the time, it will happen. Like, we have more time than we think we do. I believe that. I think we have time to stick in a passion project if you really want to. And obviously at different stages of life. I think if you have a bunch of newborn toddlers at home, no, it's not a time to start a passion project for the most part. But if you are at a stage of life where you aren't changing diapers 24/7, like, go for it. Do it, And I just want to address for a minute the last part of the questions and learn to fit in. I don't know if I'm understanding it correctly. It's a little bit of like a separate question, but my answer to that is, why the heck would you want to fit in? Don't fit in. Be you. Be you. Do what you love. Don't worry about what other people are going to think. I know it's easier said than done, but it is a motto that I really try to live by. Like, you don't get any points for fitting in. Fitting in does not give you any points. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about fitting in. Worry about fulfilling your dreams, your passion, adding your footprint, your energy into the world, adding good, and who cares about fitting in? That's my 2 cents. Okay. And there's one more question that came in. There's more questions, but one more question that I wanted to share, but it really wasn't a question. It was a nice podcast compliment feedback, and it feels good to say it. So I'm going to say it because we all like good feedback and it makes us feel like what we're doing and putting out into the world has meaning and purpose. So for myself, I'm going to share it. She said, just want to say thank you and look forward to every second Monday. It's really insightful, informative, and fun to listen to. So again, not a question, but that felt really nice to read and to hear. So thank you for sending that in, and I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, so this podcast does not come about magically, and I don't do it alone. I have such an amazing team behind me that makes this all happen. So obviously, I'm your host, Chavie. Our producer and creative director is Eli Ben-Chion. He's awesome. Wouldn't have this without him. Audio is edited and mixed by Reed Seeley. Music by Basia Schechter and Daniel Ori. And this is totally unexpected.